Hey guys, what is up? It is the Fast Break Report here, bringing you guys another vlog. So we're officially into the dog days of NBA content here on YouTube. Summer League is officially over. There's a lot of rumors going around right now with trades and so on and so forth, and I don't want to make videos on any of that until something actually happens. So in the meantime, I wanted to put this video out because I feel indifferent about the Utah Jazz. I wanted to talk about this ever since they decided to press reset on their roster with, trading Rudy Gobert to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now they're looking to shop Donovan Mitchell. And I look at this team and I understand that they have Danny Ainge. I understand Danny Ainge is a part of that organization, and I would be hard-pressed to find someone who doesn't think that Danny Ainge was a part of the Rudy Gobert trade, where they got an insane amount of draft picks for a guy who probably wasn't even worth it. I mean, the Minnesota Timberwolves literally gave up their entire 401k to get Rudy Gobert, okay? And yes, Utah has a bright future ahead of them, but I think to myself, was this a team that really needed to press reset? Like, was this a team that really needed to trade Rudy Gobert? Was this a team that really needs to trade Donovan Mitchell? Like, I just think to myself, what if in an alternate universe, now stick with me here a minute, what if in an alternate universe, the Utah Jazz still fire Quinn Snyder, but they bring in a guy like Frank Vogel who prioritizes defense and runs a half-court offense, right? And can, maybe get a guy an open three-point shot every once in a while. And what if they traded Mike Conley, whose contract is abysmal at this point? He's making $20 million plus a year at the age of 34 to be a 13-5 guy. And I understand he shot 40% from three for them and 43% from the field from them and played 72 games for them last year. I understand that aspect of it. But I also think, Mike Conley did give them a donut in the playoffs and had a game where, he got, 2 rebounds, 4 assists, and 0 points. And I just think to myself, what if they traded Mike Conley to a team like the Spurs or my Pacers or the Knicks, a team that they're looking for a point guard. Granted, they did sign Jalen Brunson, but if they would have found a way to unload Mike Conley, right? Even if they had to include some draft capital, right? Imagine they move Mike Conley and then they sign a guy like Colin Sexton. And I know what you're thinking, Colin Sexton? Well, there's not a lot of teams Colin Sexton would have been great on. And I think to myself, Colin Sexton would have been a nice pairing next to Donovan Mitchell. Him and Mike Conley are literally the same height. Mike Conley plays defense about as much as Colin Sexton does. Colin Sexton is younger, and what are the Cavaliers bringing Colin Sexton back for? 4 years, $40 million? I mean, he's a guy that the Cavs would have easily let walk in free agency. And he shoots, when he's healthy, he shoots about 47% from the field, 38% from three, 80% from the free throw line. Will give you 20-4 or 20-3 a game. I just think to myself, what if Utah did that and signed Colin Sexton instead of 4 years, $40 million, it was like 4 years, $60 million, or 4 years, $55 million or something like that. They probably could have gotten Colin Sexton away from the Cleveland Cavaliers for cheaper than than Mike Conley. You know what I'm saying? And then you would have gotten rid of Mike Conley, freed up cap space, used that cap space to bring in Colin Sexton. Not only did you get younger, you got a guy who's the same height and a guy who's a better shot creator, And then when you include that with a guy like Frank Vogel, who actually runs plays, who doesn't just say, here, take the ball and do ISO plays, because that's what the Utah Jazz offense felt like last year. It was like, here, give the ball to Donovan Mitchell or Mike Conley or Bojan Bogdanovic or Jordan Clarkson. And people would just stand around and watch them go to work, And I think to myself, if you get a guy like Frank Vogel in there and, with the training staff, maybe you get a little more out of Rudy Gobert. I mean, 15 and 15 on 70% from the field is pretty hard to come by in the NBA. Even if it's not, shooting threes and mid-range jumpers, that's still pretty solid for a center and a guy who's in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation every year. Then we look at Donovan Mitchell. who's a guy that, yeah, I think his mid-range game and shot creation off the mid-range could use a little work. I think his finishing around the basket could use a little work as well. But it's not terrible. You know what I'm saying? Donovan Mitchell is still young. I just think to myself, if they would have added Colin Sexton, right? Gotten rid of Mike Conley and then added some pieces around that, along with bringing in Frank Vogel, suddenly the Utah Jazz are at least a competitive team in the West, and a team that could potentially make the playoffs at that point. And to me, it's like, I feel like this team pressed reset on a roster they didn't need to press reset on. I really felt like, they should have, at the very least, just brought another coach in to see how it would have worked, because I was never a fan of Quinn Snyder from the start. But it just, when I look back on this, I just think to myself, you know what? Utah definitely did put themselves in a great position to win in the future. Obviously, I think they're tanking for that kid out of France at this point, but so are the Spurs, and I think the Pacers are going to be in that conversation pretty soon. And I just think to myself, man, like, this was a team that I think really didn't have to do this, and the other side of the coin is, if they're doing this, they must really like this kid out of France, or Danny Ainge likes somebody. I don't know who it is, but I'm assuming it's that kid out of France. And, you know what? I'm really curious to know what that would have looked like. Because, granted, Colin Sexton isn't like the greatest player in the world, but I think he's an upgrade over Mike Conley. And then you look around the league, you could have gotten some free agents. You could have brought in a PJ Tucker. You know what I'm saying? Maybe at that point, a starting five of, Colin Sexton, Donovan Mitchell, Bojan Bogdanovic, PJ Tucker, and Rudy Gobert. Suddenly you're getting somewhere, and it's just, I understand that's not like maybe a championship roster, but you could have brought some guys in, okay? Especially if you would have brought Frank Vogel in as your head coach, if that was even a possibility. I just think to myself, there were so many routes this team could have taken outside of pressing reset, and they chose to press reset. So, I don't know, man. We'll have to wait and see what the Utah Jazz are going to be. It's just, at this point, it's obvious they're pressing reset. If they shopped Rudy Gobert for what they did, and now they're exploring options on Donovan Mitchell, it's pretty obvious they're blowing it up. And I don't know. To me, this is what I thought was going to happen. Like, this video is me thinking, what was going to happen after Quinn Snyder was fired, and none of that happened. So, I don't know, man. We'll have to wait and see. But anyway, tell me what you guys think about this down below in the comment section below. I'd love to hear your guys' opinions on this. A like helps me out. Subscribe if you guys want to see more. I'm the Fast Break Report, and I'm out of this motherfucker. Peace, guys.